Ashley, what's our first official topic today?
First topic up is from Patreon supporter Dion Shepard. Hey, John and crew. The Hollywood Reporter came out with an article stating Warner Brothers studio chief Kevin Tsujihara is stepping down. I don't want to get too excited now, but after all of the DCEU nonsense that happened under his reign, I'm glad. What are your thoughts?
You guys remember a little while ago, this quote unquote scandal broke out. Here's the basic gist of it. Kevin Tsujihara, CEO and chairman of Warner Brothers Studios. He came out, had an affair a number of years ago with an actress, and there was a report in the Hollywood Reporter alleging that he was helping this actress get roles because of his affair with her. Now, it's important to note that both Kevin Tsujihara and the actress in question both vehemently deny that he ever used their relationship to further or help her career at all. He denies it, which you would expect, but she denies it. Like, she vehemently denies it, that he did anything to help her in that way. But there were the allegations, and it casts a dark cloud over it. Anyway, the chairman and CEO of Warner Media, which is the oversight parent company of Warner, put out this following statement. This is from John Campea, the CEO of Warner Media, who writes, "It is in the best interest of Warner Media, Warner Brothers, our employees, and our partners for Kevin to step down as chairman and CEO of Warner Brothers. Kevin has contributed greatly to the studio's success over the past 25 years, and for that we thank him. Kevin acknowledges that his mistakes are inconsistent with the company's leadership expectations and could impact the company's ability to execute going forward." So that comes from the CEO of Warner Media. So Kevin Tsujihara also put out his own statement, basically echoing the exact same things that are just there. It's like, hey, it's not best for the company for me to still be in here with this scandal sort of thing going on and whatever, I'm stepping down. It is important to keep in mind something. A lot of people who only follow comic book movies, they think of the impending Disney Fox deal, and they think it's all about Disney and about Disney getting back Fantastic Four and X-Men, when really that has a tiny thing to do with it. Very tiny. We think in terms of Alan Horn, well, wow, he's a real screw-up because he botched the James Gunn thing. When in reality, Alan Horn has been one of the biggest geniuses and biggest success stories in the history of Hollywood. Much bigger picture. And so when a lot of people think of Kevin Tsujihara and Warner Brothers, they just instantly want to think of the DCEU. When in reality, Kevin Tsujihara has been a very good executive for Warner Brothers. I mean, he played a key role in getting the entire Harry Potter franchise up and running. We've got a number of new films coming out pretty soon that he was at the forefront of getting that stuff on Warner Brothers' docket. He's had decades of success working with Warner Brothers. Now, I've had my opinion about whether this scandal should even be a big issue. Like, okay, they had an affair. He denies he used it to help her with her career, and she denies that he used it to help her career. This shouldn't be a scandal. But I get why Warner Brothers and Kevin feel the need to separate at this point, because whether or not it's fair, it is the perception of scandal and all this kind of stuff, and therefore he's stepping down. And it is probably best for him, and it is probably best for the company. Rob, you've been following Warner Brothers for a long time. A guy like Kevin Tsujihara has been so instrumental there. What do you think about him stepping down, the timing of him stepping down, and what's next for Warner Brothers? Where does Warner Brothers go from here?
Well, Warner Brothers has traditionally always had long-standing relationships with talent. They've cultivated, Clint Eastwood's been there, Malpaso, Clint Eastwood's company's been there for 40 years or something. Yeah. And I don't share the optimistic appraisal of Tsujihara's reign. He came from their amusement park division, basically, and took over the studio. I don't think he had the best run as the steward of Warner Studios. I think that he was more of a corporate suit, and I think the people that run studios, the effective studio heads, really have these relationships with the talent, as opposed, he was much more of a corporate suit. He answered to his corporate overlords, and I understand that, and look, they're replacing all the creatives at HBO with AT&T executives. The people that have turned because they want to be like Netflix. And the corporate culture and the entertainment business are fundamentally at odds with one another, in the sense that creatives have to be given a certain amount of leeway to work. And I just don't know if Tsujihara was the best shepherd of the movie business. Whereas, we'll see if Walter Hamada's reign, they've sort of got an interim board now running who's going to run the studio. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But really, you really need people at the head of a studio that are somewhat visionary, and they can really make decisions from their gut. And so often now we see, because these companies are run by corporations, absolutely they are, and they're being, I think they're becoming too corporatized, and the real successful studio executives need a little bit of they need a little wider berth to work. And I hope that Warner Brothers finds somebody who's like that, and not just somebody who is a corporate minion, because that doesn't work.
And, we'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up again. The one big blotch, I think, on Kevin Tsujihara's rep over the last couple of years came around this situation with Justice League. If you remember the reports that, it was reported that Joss Whedon, who had taken over Justice League, had a lot to do and a lot to reshoot. They had requested to push the release date into the following year. Now, the reports that then came out was that Kevin Tsujihara denied their request to delay the release of the film so they can get it finished properly, because with the impending AT&T takeover, he was worried that if he's not going to be on board with the company anymore, if his position gets pushed out or whatever, that whatever box office Justice League makes would not reflect on his bonus, which was considerable. And therefore, that is why he and a couple of other executives forced the filmmakers to keep the release date in the year that it was coming out, despite the fact that it left Joss Whedon and a lot of guys, whatever. That was a big black eye.
Yeah.
That was a big black eye on that one, because that was a situation of a guy putting his interests in front of the interests of the movie, and in front of the interests of the company, and in front of the interest of their employees. And that was an unfortunate thing. Other than that, not a lot. I'll tell you what though, Robert, you and I are going to CinemaCon in Las Vegas. And every year at CinemaCon, I actually think this picture was probably taken at CinemaCon. Kevin Tsujihara gets up at CinemaCon during the Warner presentation, because every studio goes and does this big 2-hour presentation, and they show like tons of footage of all the movies they have coming up that year, and they give a state of the union of their studio and all this kind of stuff. And, Bob Iger shows up, and Kevin Tsujihara every year gets up there, and it's going to be an awkward presentation for Warner Brothers at this point. Like, I don't know.
Bob was telling me yesterday.
Is that what Bob was telling you yesterday?
Yeah.
With you being on the cell phone with him? So anyway, there you go, guys. Listen, what do you think about Kevin Tsujihara stepping down from his position there at Warner Brothers? Where do you think Warner Brothers goes from here? Jump down in the comments section and let me know your thoughts.